Welcome to OState Daily. Casey Porter here. So glad that you decided to tune in. Fans, today we have one of the most special guests that I could ever have on OState Daily. I'm not going to lie. I told Terry Miller that you're seeing on your screen that I am very nervous. I'm even more excited. Terry Miller, what a great honor. You don't have any clue how much you have meant to me and all the other Oklahoma State fans. So thank you so much for joining.
Well, I appreciate it. It's been a while since I've seen that background you have there, inside the stadium once again.
Okay. I was 3 years old whenever Oklahoma State beat OU in 1976, so I don't remember seeing it with my own eyes. I went back and watched the game. I've probably seen the game now like 10 different times. I remember Phillip Dokes there at nose guard just causing havoc, and then you guys went to the veer there with Harold Bailey. Charlie Weatherby comes in the second half and completes 5 passes. You beat OU that game, but I want to back up to the third carry of the game. It's an option play, and you go down that near side boundary. Can you take us through that hole? Of course, they played on the Jumbotron. It's etched in Oklahoma State history's memory. So can you take us through all that?
Well, over the years, it's gotten earlier, it's been later, it's been longer for sure. Right. But, there's just a number of people that, you would think that was the only run, but it's the one that they remember. So we're happy with that. And obviously we're happy with the victory. I never really knew the impact of the Bedlam series as it's known, because I came from Colorado. Yeah. And I used to hear guys say, hey, if we just beat OU, will be a successful season. I'm like, whoa, what are we talking about? One win? And that was not my mindset coming from Colorado. It's, at least, win can if you can. And if you lose one, it's okay. But that was not the case. And luckily that day in 76, we were able to accomplish that.
Absolutely. What do you remember about, going back to the veer? Of course, you guys had just recently gone back to the veer. So freshman quarterback out of Booker T, Harold Bailey, takes the reins from the senior Charlie Weatherby. Charlie has to come in the second half and throw a couple of passes. What do you remember from all of that?
Well, we had prepared during the week to run certain plays. Obviously, that was in the game plan. And quite frankly, for a couple of years there, we ran a combination of the veer and the I formation. And a lot of that was to do with the personnel that we had. Obviously, you didn't have to handle your blocking assignments as long if you were running the veer, because it was a speed option, as they call it now. And but we had planned for Harold to be in there. He had tremendous speed, and we couldn't believe, even during the play, I think it was like, is he going to pitch that ball this quick?
Yeah.
And it was like out of the gate. And the receivers, everybody did their job. So for anytime anything works successfully, I'll go with 5 P's instead of 6. Proper preparation prevents pitiful performance. And so we were prepared for that action. And it came up big on the screen. And, as they say, the rest is history.
Last year, Ring of Honor, it was an amazing event. It brought all Oklahoma State fans to tears. I know it was an event that's very dear to your heart. Can you take us through all that and what that means to you?
Well, I tell you, there's some folks that I wish were around to be able to see that, and that being Coach Stanley and some of the other coaches and players that I played with, because in reality, my name being up there is because of the work that they did and allowed me to do. And so I'm very thankful to those folks and the guys that are still coming back and forth. And as a matter of fact, homecoming this week, Harold usually comes up a couple of times during the year and we spend some time. He stays with us. And so he's one of those guys that's, become a lifelong friend, as there's many others as well. but just in the context of that, we don't sit around and talk about the pitch nearly as much as I guess we could.
Yeah.
But we know, and we know who made it possible, and the efforts that went into making that particular play work.
J.C. Watts, Elvis Peacock, Kenny King, Terry Miller, Harold Bailey. I mean, Philip Dokes. You got all these just incredible players on the field. Did you realize how big of a moment it was at the time, or is it kind of more as you've gone on, it's become bigger?
You know, at the time, you just live in the moment.
Yeah.
And here I am in 1974 coming as a freshman here. And here we are in 2024 to see 50 years of growth of, the program. There's been some hard times, as, you get beat up, you get up. And, but, from that standpoint, you don't realize the significance of that. I think it was something that we expected. It wasn't something that was a surprise. We expected that we could make some plays, and you go into games with expectations, seasons and everything else in life. And then every once in a while you get a curveball, speaking of the World Series.
Sure.
And, you have to get up, you have to rethink what's going on and try new things. So we're very proud of our 76 team and all the teams that, I participated on.
Of course, Oklahoma State had one of its best decades of all time in the 1980s. It wasn't like always a smooth transition every year between that 76 team and then the early Jimmy Johnson teams and the Pat Jones teams that were fighting for national championships. But did you feel like you guys provided a springboard to that decade?
Well, I think the thing that has to happen, it has to start somewhere. Yeah. And obviously in that period prior to 74, there had been some very few exciting moments, I guess I will say, a very few opportunities to advance, and we were able to start that off by going to a bowl game, and I think it had been about 16 years or so since they had been to a bowl game. Though I know that bowl games are important, but then again, I think more so than just playing for a bowl game, you play for your pride. You play, you play at the best level you can. And that brings me to 75, when I thought we were probably as good as or better than in 76. And because we did not, I think we did win 6. I think we ended up being 6-5. Yeah. And there was no bowl game because we didn't have enough bowl games to go around. And, just the standards that they set for, different teams in this, we just weren't in the mix.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people forget that in 1974, Oklahoma State actually played in the Fiesta Bowl against the same opponent that you played in the Tangerine Bowl in 1976, both of which being BYU, right?
Exactly. As a freshman, we played down in Tempe, played BYU in I believe, the first Fiesta Bowl. I can't be certain on that, but I guess if I wanted to know that bad, I'd look it up. But we'll say we played in it for the first time as far as Oklahoma State is concerned. And we were able to come out with a hard-fought victory against then, I guess they would have been the WAC champions or what have you. But nobody probably remembers what that was, but the Western Athletic Conference. And, we went down, we played a good game. We had a really good defense. Obviously, you mentioned Philip Dokes and some of the other guys. And I'm not necessarily playing, I didn't get to play that big a role in that game. Could have. I was wide open and dropped a touchdown pass, but that's my memory. I hope no one else remembers it.
Yeah. Actually, guys, we're 7-4 in 1975, so that was a really good season. You mentioned his name, and I don't remember the period because I was too young. My first coach at Oklahoma State, I remember, was Jimmy Johnson. I remember the we're going to knock your damn eyes out type stuff that he brought to Oklahoma State. But tell us, for all of us guys that, I'm 51, I don't remember Jim Stanley, like I said. For all of us that don't remember him, Can you kind of take us through what he was like and what it was like to play for him?
Well, you knew who was the boss, so I'd say that. That was, Coach Stanley. He was kind of obviously he was from the Bear Bryant tree. Mm-hmm. And, he was stern but fair. I never had any problems with him. There's a lot of guys that did have problems with him, but that was a lot of times it was, the players, you have to put yourself in a position not to be singled out or what have you. But it was one of those things you knew that, hey, he was a hard-nosed guy. That's the way he wanted us to play. He wanted us to do the things that required to be able to do that. In other words, go to class, get your education, be on time. More or less kind of a military mindset, I guess you would call it. And I thought Coach Stanley did a great job with trying to build a program here, and he had some success. And I still see his sons today. And, I happened to see him, I think, in one of the games that was on television this year, and I think it must have involved Texas A&M. And I saw him around Bear Bryant. And so I immediately called his kids and they said, we know what that picture is. Excuse me. And I was like, because we knew, or I remember that he played for Bryant at A&M, and it was an A&M game. Maybe, I don't know which game it was earlier this year, but there was a commercial and they showed a black and white of the locker room. And there was Jim Stanley right next to Bear Bryant.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So was he one of the Junction Boys?
Yes, he was.
Wow.
Yes.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Wow.
Amazing. I don't know if he was at A&M. He was there during that time. Whatever the Junction Boys meant, I'm sure he was.
Incredible. Hey, another game that always I hear about a lot. I don't remember it, but I hear about it a lot, so I just can't wait to hear a firsthand account of it. That game that we beat Arkansas at home in 1975. Arkansas had it rolling. They were playing for national titles, I remember, in the early 80s. So they were very, very good. That was one of the biggest wins in Oklahoma State football in a long, long time. So do you remember anything about that game?
Well, like you say, we knew that we had a tough opponent coming into Stillwater. My freshman year, we played at night in Little Rock. Went for a freshman to go into Little Rock from Colorado Springs. Wasn't real familiar with calling the Hogs, but they do call them. Yeah, and so it was great getting them here and then being able to win that ball game. Again, you go back, you don't remember a lot of specifics about the game. I know that we were an underdog for sure. And, but that was a good sign of things to come for us as far as building the program during the Jim Stanley era.
So you're from Colorado Springs, 3-sport star. We'll get into all the sports that you played there at Mitchell High School. But my first question about that, growing up in Colorado Springs, Colorado is one of the best programs in the United States of America. Matter of fact, they are the team that beat you in 1976, the year that we beat OU, to make it a co-championship instead of an outright championship for Oklahoma State. So how in the world does this guy, Terry Miller, who's a state sprinter, a state champion point guard on the basketball team, probably the best running back in the state that year, definitely the fastest, how in the world does he get away from Colorado?
Well, the recruiting was a lot different than it is now. And I had known a lot about Colorado and a lot of the players that went there. And actually, one of those players was from Mitchell High School, where I attended school.
Nice.
His name was Cullen Bryant. And Cullen was, I think they grew up about 3 blocks from us. And his dad was... he was somewhat of a legend because I think he had participated with the Globetrotters at some point in time. And his name was Colonel Bryant. I'm not sure if he was in the service or not, but I suspect he was.
Yeah, sure.
But that was what he went by. And in that recruiting process, I had an opportunity to visit with Cullen, and there were some things that was going on in Colorado. In other words, I got the word is that you may not want to come to Colorado.
Yeah, right.
And one of the biggest things, they were going through transition in hiring a coach and what have you. So things were beginning to, be a problem in Colorado. So, we just chose to do what we did here at Oklahoma State.
That is absolutely fantastic. Let's back up to your career at Mitchell High School. I got to hear all about the state championship game, your state championship team that you were the point guard on, and all of the your favorite track events. I know you were a sprinter there, a state championship sprinter. So let's talk about everything but football there at Mitchell High School.
Well, basketball was kind of my first love, but I knew that I wasn't going to be tall enough at any point to be able to play. You get some little scholarship offers to, some smaller schools, but my heart wasn't in basketball as much as it was in, say, football and track.
Sure.
But I was part of a team that was very talented, players that went on to play, collegiately. And so they were I was just the worker on the team. You know what I'm saying? Make sure we're in the right place and try to, saying that this day and age. And I'm like, I was doing that. And I'm like, nah, that doesn't fit me. It doesn't seem like it would be me, but it was.
Bet you could play some defense.
So I was one of the defense, being able to steal the ball, get the fast break started, that type of thing. I wasn't Steph Curry throwing down threes from half court. And but then again, they didn't really give you a three if you made it from half court. Right. So, and then track, obviously, I found out at an early age, probably 6th, 7th grade, that I was faster than most folks.
Yeah.
And so that turned into getting some good coaching and learning how to run. I mean, at least for that era, things have changed over time. But that is probably even more so than football at that point. Was probably my favorite thing, was outrunning everybody in the state.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed outrunning OU defenders that day in 1976.
Yeah, well, that was pads on.
Absolutely. And the tearaway jerseys, right?
Yes.
Tearaway.
Thank goodness for that.
Absolutely. Because you're the poster child for tearaway jerseys, because you're running so fast that your jersey just tore off every time they tried to tackle you, right?
Yeah, that's what happened.
Okay, so you know about these rumors, right? So I hear this rumor that Terry Miller didn't really like football growing up, wasn't really into football. Then all of a sudden, come about junior high, didn't really play football. Come about junior high, had to get talked into going out and playing for football, playing football, and then ended up liking it from there. Is that right? Yeah,
you didn't know as much about it back in the day, because you didn't have the media.
Sure.
You had 2 or 3 TV stations, mostly radio. You didn't have talking in thin air over the computer and all that good stuff. So I, Pop Warner, I guess is what you would want to call it. But yeah, it was 8th grade actually before I ever played organized football. And it was strictly by accident. A buddy of mine, late friend of mine, who actually came to Oklahoma State with me from Colorado Springs, Robert Jane, he and I were quasi riding bikes, playing around in Memorial Park in Colorado Springs. And, that's where some of the teams practiced. That's where they had the home game. And we got through riding our bikes, doing whatever. And we sit down and then, trying to get some rest, get a little shade. And the kicker for the team that we were watching shanked the ball, and I got up off the ground and I caught it. And the coach came over and he says, "Oh, that was a pretty good catch. Do you play football?" I said, "No, sir, I don't." And he said, "Would you be interested?" And I said, "Well, I might be, but you're going to have to ask my mother if I'm real interested." That was the determining factor.
Absolutely.
And so, that happened. And I got an opportunity to be on the Int Sabres, Colorado Springs,
nice.
Young American League. And so he said, "What position do you like?" He says, "Oh, I like to run with the ball, or I think I could be Bob Hayes if you like."
All right.
He said, "But I think I want to put you at running back.
Okay.
And that way we can at least get the ball to you more than, once in a while throwing it."
Yeah.
And so we did that. And there was like 2 plays: sprint draw and sweep.
See ya.
And the story is, in order to stop me from scoring, he took me out of the game. And so that's how my career got started. And then as we moved up the ladder a little bit, that really got me to liking it, because I said, "Hey, if this is what's going on, then as we moved up the ladder into, high school, freshman ball, C squad, getting to play varsity, and was still having that type of success, it just became something that I needed to do."
Did you ever get digitally timed for the 40?
You know what? The timing situation back in those days was, they came here, no electronic,
Sure.
but a handheld time of like 4:35.
Nice.
But it's kind of like it's deceiving.
Sure.
If they can catch you, they will. If they can't, they won't.
Yep.
You know?
There's game
And,
speed.
so if I run 4.3 and somebody else runs 4.2, I'm not going to outrun them. And so that's kind of how I felt about it. It's not always about the speed. It's not always about the size. You got to have a mind. You got to have a mindset. And the people on the opposite side of the football, as the coach say, in professional ball, you can say it in now in college, they get paid too.
They do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
to try to keep you from being able to do your job, right?
Exactly.
Hey, you mentioned that the Little League coaches had to ask your mother. Your mother's name was Bonnie.
Yes.
And rumor has it that she was a pretty good stickler on academics, right?
Well, I think she still is, if she gets a chance to think about it, But that was obviously back in the day. In those days, education was part of that formula, because if you weren't eligible, you couldn't play. And in so many cases, a lot of the folks around me were very proactive education, and it really it's kind of like sports as well. You got to be in the game in order to know about the game, in my opinion. And in order to be in school, you got to go to class. And that was something that was emphasized to me very early, around 9th grade, when they started doing grade checks, is I thought I was the hottest thing in the world. Hey, mom, stud athlete here. Now just sign this grade slip with straight C's. And she says, well, she thought about it for a minute. She says, I'm going to do this one time. We can't say what she said on air. And you bring this home again, and you will never play any sports. So I think that's trust me, I believed her when she said what the consequences would be.
That's not good.
Yeah. And and I find it, and I found it not to be a hindrance. The more you know, the more you can do. Yeah. And the only way that you could, graduate from college is go to class, do the work. The only way you could play football was go to practice and do the work. And so I was very comfortable in that, and I'm very proud to to have gotten my degree on time. And so I'll have been a graduate of Oklahoma State in 1978, will be 50 years. Hopefully, hopefully I'm around to enjoy that just as much as all these other accolades.
Wow. I'll tell you another just unbelievable part of your playing career is that you finished second in the Heisman running in 1977 behind the Tyler Rose, Earl Campbell, which is really cool in itself. And then you replaced O.J. Simpson as the starting running back in Buffalo, and you were just like 5 or 6 years before Thurman Thomas, another great Oklahoma State back that was with Buffalo as well. And you were widely renowned as the beginning of tailback U at Oklahoma State. So all those things are really cool, huh?
Well, as far as the second place in the Heisman, that was obviously that was Earl Campbell in Texas, and finishing fourth the year before was I think that was Tony Dorsett.
Yeah.
And so largely the Heisman Trophy is just like I say, it's a team victory. Back in the day, exposure for Pittsburgh and Texas we paled in comparison for people back in New York and in California to know anything about us. So being involved in that obviously speaks to the volume of what we were accomplishing in that era. In retrospect, yes, I replaced O.J. Simpson. They traded him and drafted me. But as it turns out, in my thinking, I was a fifth player drafted in that draft myself. Earl Campbell was first. I was the second running back drafted. Had I had my druthers, I would have rather been a lower draft pick and went to a better team.
Yes.
That's not to say that, I appreciate Buffalo but looking at it from a business standpoint, Buffalo's interior, we had a new coach coming in. We had guys that had been there for a number of years that were, at the end of their career. And so they were in the process of rebuilding. Yeah. And, as I look back from strictly a business standpoint, would I have been better off with a team that was there that I could just join and be a part of and not be one of the building blocks? Right. Because to me, I think that, that the electric company, as they used to be called, had run out of juice. And, and actually the juice left, and then the power units were still running along, so it was one of those things I look back and in retrospect, hey, it is what it is. And I'm very proud to have been drafted and, gotten an opportunity to play in the NFL. But really, I think more, as some of the guys will probably tell you, that college was probably some of the best time that they had because it is, it is and was a fun place to be with a lot of people that are close to you, not in the professionals where you're kind of screened off from.
Yeah, right. Hey, I know you got a chance to talk to Oli Gordon right before the Kansas game last year whenever you went into the Ring of Honor, and that was very important to him, and he had like the best game of his career in that game, and he gave credit to you for just kind of the inspiration that you gave to him. You don't have to give any of the details, but can you kind of just give us the cliff notes of what you told Oli and just kind of what you think of him?
Well, I love Oli to death. Actually, I've been to a number of practices. I see him out there.
Okay, nice.
I ran into Coach Gundy, a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he says, "Why don't you ever come out to practice?" And I told him, Coach, I said, "Hey, man, I didn't even like to practice when I had to go to practice." And, jokingly, I said, at least that's one reason. But one of the things that I've really gotten to enjoy going to see them at practice, and talk to the guys. And I visit with some folks that, they have no knowledge of me other than whatever the coaches and, the different thing. But Oli and some of the other guys, I just go out and talk to them, kind of try to talk their language, and hey, just take care of your business. Be you. Don't be me. Don't be anybody else. And nobody's going to be me, I guess, at this age. They don't want to be me now. But as far as it goes in the moment, yes, I've spoke to him and spoke to Bowman and a bunch of the players, talked to them all. And the one thing about it is football in and of itself hasn't changed. I mean, the different plays, but the simple basics of it is you run, you catch, you throw, you tackle, you block, and good things happen.
Yes.
If you lack in doing that, then you lose. And I know that. I know that that's a big part of Coach Gundy's message to them is take care of yourself, take care of your business, and you will be okay. I mean, all you can do is what you can do, but don't do it 100%.
So your playing career ended in 1981. I know you live in the area. I know you don't like cold weather, so Buffalo probably wasn't great for you as far as that goes. You like the warmer weather. So tell us about what you've been doing since 1981 and what you're doing now.
Well, I'm not colder weather is good, but Siberian weather is not. I grew up in Colorado before global warming. Believe it or not, it used to snow there.
Yeah,
and so the cold weather is one thing, but Buffalo back in the day was a culture shock from, like when Halloween 50 years ago, well, 46 years ago now, when Halloween and that last leaf hit the ground in Buffalo, New York, you didn't see Earth until June. And snow didn't come in we're going to get 2 inches. No, we're going to get 2 feet. And by the way, it's here already. It arrives. It doesn't, it doesn't collect. And these are fun things about Buffalo to me. And it's true. I don't mean any harm from him, whatever advantage there is, but that was just what it was. And you have these experiences that you wouldn't trade for anything, but enough is enough.
Yeah,
and,
right.
Buffalo, and they have the Mafia now and all of that good. Those are avid fans in the Buffalo area. And as they were back when I was playing. So, I mean, some things change and some don't. But I have noticed that there has been some change in the climate up there because I've seen lately, November, December, people with T-shirts on in the winter. It's been a long time since I played any football, but it's been good growing old with some of the people that I played ball with and having them come back, and we have these events and different things like that. And I've always been kind of a loner, as it were. So you just enjoy the moment.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's end with this, Terry Miller. This has been such a wonderful honor to get to speak with you. Let's finish with this. What does Oklahoma State mean to Terry Miller?
Well, it means 4 years out of my life. Had a lot of good teammates, had a lot of good coaches, and I guess had I not come to Oklahoma State, the best award, if you can call it an award, which I will, that I received during the time since I was at Oklahoma State, but because of Oklahoma State, and that would be that of my wife of nearly 30 years.
Nice.
And so that's, that's where my mindset is.
Fantastic. Terry Miller, this has been such a wonderful honor. I know you got an appointment to get to here in just a minute. I've taken a lot of your time, and I know you don't do these very often, so trust me, I am very honored that you chose to come on to OState Daily. I cannot thank you enough.
Hey, I appreciate it. And, 3 years old for 76, you have a good memory. Hey, we appreciate you, bud.